People of the State of Michigan versus Ricky Allen Norton. These are files 2023383, 2023382, 2123775, and 2123827. Mr. Norton is here represented by Mr. Knopfsinger in these cases. And it's my understanding that the matter is resolved. Mr. Gabriel is the prosecutor, so Mr. Norton, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Gabriel, my understanding is in 2023382, there's a charge of possession of methamphetamine as a habitual fourth offense. That will be dismissed.
That is correct.
File 2023383, charge of conspiracy to commit home invasion in the second degree, a felony punishable by up to 15 years in the Department of Corrections and or a fine of $3,000 and another $10,000 additional fine. In this case, you would dismiss the habitual offender fourth offense notice.
With the defendant pleading guilty to the main charge, correct?
Yep. And then 2123775, containing a charge of fleeing and eluding in the third degree as a habitual fourth, that would be dismissed.
Correct.
And he would plead in 2123827 to a charge of larceny from a motor vehicle, a felony punishable by up to 5 years, and or a fine of up to $10,000. And he would plead to the charge of use of methamphetamine, the misdemeanor punishable by up to 1 year and or $2,000, and the court shall impose license sanctions. You would agree to dismiss count 1, possession of methamphetamine, and the habitual offender notice.
That is correct.
And then the other thing you said is that you would agree that you would recommend that all these cases run concurrent with each other, even though they could be consecutive.
That is correct.
All right, Mr. Knopfsinger, is that your understanding?
It is, Your Honor. Thank you.
And Mr. Norton, is that your understanding?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you currently on probation or parole?
No, Your Honor.
All right. So 2023383. In this case, you're charged with conspiracy to commit home invasion in the second degree as a habitual fourth offense. They would drop the habitual fourth offense and you would plead to the charge of conspiracy to commit home invasion second degree as a felony punishable by up to 15 years in prison and or a fine of up to $3,000 and a $10,000 additional fine. How do you plead to that charge?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Has anyone promised you anything in order to, other than what we've talked about in court today, has anyone promised you anything else to get you to plead?
No, Your Honor.
Anybody threaten you?
No, Your Honor.
Are you doing this of your own free will?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that if I accept your plea, you'll not have a trial of any kind and that you'll be giving up the right you would have had at trial? Those include the right to be tried by a jury, to be presumed innocent until proved guilty, to have the prosecutor prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty, to have the witnesses against you appear at trial, to question the witnesses that appear against you, to have the court ordering witnesses you have for the defense to appear at trial, to remain silent during the trial and to not have that silence used against you, and to testify at trial if you want to testify. You understand you're giving up all those rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
You also understand that if your plea is accepted, you may be giving up the right to appeal certain issues that would otherwise be appealable if convicted at trial. Further, any appeal from your conviction and sentence pursuant to the plea would be by application for leave and not by right. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And here it alleges that between December 15th, 2018 and January 4th, 2019, while in Fabius Township, the county of St. Joseph in the state of Michigan, you did unlawfully conspire, combine, confederate, and agree together with Alex Matthews, Nicholas Shreve, Rachel Bates, and or another person to commit the following listed offense contrary to the statute, which would be home invasion in the second degree. So did you conspire with other people in order to break into a home and commit a home invasion?
Yes, Your Honor.
What did you do?
I basically told them how to break into a building in a campground
Okay.
over the phone.
And was it a residence in the campground?
The building is just a building where they store stuff. That's all it was. It's closed down for the winter, and
Mr. Knopfinger and Mr. Gabriel, could you assist as to what the factual, how this is a home invasion?
Yes, Your Honor. Norton, you made some telephone calls from the county jail in Kalamazoo to Alex Matthews, correct?
yes, Your Honor. Yes, sir.
You don't have to honor me. And isn't it true that in those phone calls, you directed Mr. Matthews to some cottages around Long Lake where you felt he could get certain property, which you could then have him sell, and he would give you some money to help pay some fines?
Yes, and it's kind of foggy. I mean, I remember talking about the campground and the building that had stereo equipment and stuff like that, and boat motors. I mean, I don't know if I said anything. I can't remember if I said anything about cottages or anything.
Well, I provided Mr. Knopfinger with the telephone calls, Your Honor, and I guess I know what I heard.
Okay, so Mr. Norton, these were tape recorded conversations from the jail in Kalamazoo,
Yes, Your Honor.
correct? All right, and in
Yes,
those
sir.
conversations, you made plans with various people, Mr. Matthews, Mr. Shreve, and others, to break into various locations around Long Lake. And Mr. Knopfinger, you received those audio conversations in the police reports, is that correct?
I did, yeah, and we discussed the audio tapes, but I don't think we ever sat down and listened to them.
Okay, but he's aware, he's received a copy of the police reports. I'm gonna put you into a breakout room so that you can talk. See if you can jog your memory as to what's in those police reports, Mr. Norton. I know it was 3 years ago. And I wanna stress to you the difference between what a conspiracy is. It's a crime to plan to commit a crime. So conspiracy is the planning part. It never has to even go through. If the crime does not complete, it's still a crime to plan for it and to take your action towards it, and to move towards it. So you talking with somebody to break into a home, to make plans to do it, that's a crime. Whether they did it or not, that's a crime. Okay? So, you know, unless you said, look, I don't want anything to do with this, I've changed my mind, I'm not involved, you know, the crime's committed once the conversation takes place. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
So Mr. Knopfinger will talk with you for a moment. We'll see where we go.
Okay.
You might have to rent.
Let me bring him in. All right, Mr. Norton, when we broke, I had given you what I thought was the definition of conspiracy to help you. And after we broke, I looked it up. And so I'll just read you, Mr. Knopfsinger, the definition or the jury instruction for conspiracy. To prove the defendant's guilt, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that the defendant and someone else knowingly agreed to commit a crime. Second, that the defendant specifically intended to commit or help commit that crime. And third, that the agreement took place or continued during the period from this to that. And then the crime would need to be defined. So that's what conspiracy is an agreement to commit a crime between two people. Whether or not the crime was committed, the saying is, it's often said that the crime of conspiracy is complete when the agreement is made and no overt act of furtherance of the agreement is required. However, in People versus Sear, 113 Mishap 213, the court said the conspirators must do more than merely agree. They must intend to further promote or cooperate in the unlawful enterprise. And so in this very lengthy affidavit, which covers many breaking and enterings and home invasions that's investigated, there's one portion in it where it indicates that Detective Knight from the Kalamazoo Police Department provided recorded jail phone calls between Ricky Norton and Alex Matthews. Ricky Norton was incarcerated in the Kalamazoo County Jail. 2 phone calls between Norton and Matthews were recorded on 12/15/2018 and 12/20/2018. During the phone calls, Norton is giving Matthews specific directions to the northeast end of Long Lake and tells him to break into the summer cottages and trailers in that area. The phone calls took place on December 20th, and it appears the burglaries that took place on Walnut Drive were then handled on 12/20 to 12/21 of 2018. And then you told Mr. Matthews that when you got out of jail, you would conduct more burglaries in the area and divide up the money. So that's where this is all coming from. So Mr. Knopfsinger, you had a chance to review with him, and I know that there's a huge part of this police report that covers all kinds of other breaking and enterings, but that's the portion of this case. Yep. Is he ready to proceed, or do you need more time to talk to him? What are your thoughts?
No, we did talk, and it had been some time. What he had to remember at the time was there was a storage shed, right, which is on the campground. We went back through, we talked more, and there were other plans of breaking into the cottages, which would be rented out, and that would be the factual basis. So
is he ready to proceed then, now that he's talked to you?
Yeah, I think we are.
Okay, Mr. Norton, does that jog your memory as to what took place there 3 years ago almost now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you do agree that you talked with the other person about breaking into the cottages and trailers around the lake in order to then divide up the money after you got out of jail, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, are counsel satisfied that a factual basis has been established in that case?
Yes, Your Honor, no, we are.
Yes, Your Honor.
And are either counsel aware of any other promises, threats, or inducements in that case?
I am not.
No.
And has the court complied with the court rule?
Court has, Your Honor.
It has, Your Honor.
All right, let's move on to 2123827 then. And in this case, Mr. Norton, you're charged with possession of methamphetamine as a drug double, larceny from a motor vehicle, and use of methamphetamine, and a habitual offender fourth offense. The agreement involves you pleading to larceny from a motor vehicle and use of methamphetamine and dismissal of everything else. Is that correct? Mr. Norton, do you agree?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so as the charge of larceny from a motor vehicle, a felony punishable by up to 5 years and or a fine of up to $10,000, how do you plead?
Guilty.
And on the charge of use of methamphetamine, a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in jail and or a fine of up to $2,000, and the court shall impose license sanctions, how do you plead?
Guilty, Your Honor.
In this case, has anyone promised you anything else to get you to plead?
No, Your Honor.
Anybody threaten you to make you do it?
No, Your Honor.
Are you doing this of your own free will?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you understand you're giving up all the trial rights that you would have had by pleading guilty. And we
Yes,
discussed those earlier. Do you remember that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Remember, you're giving all those up.
Yes.
All right. Now here it alleges that on February 21st of 2021, you were in Sherman Township, County of St. Joseph in the state of Michigan. Is that true?
Yes, Your Honor.
And here it's alleged that at that time you committed the offense of larceny from a motor vehicle by stealing or unlawfully removing or taking a catalytic converter that was on a motor vehicle. What'd you do?
Well, we walked up to the truck and cut the catalytic converter off and took a gallon of antifreeze out of the truck and walked back down to our truck that was broke down. And we seen the cop passing, so we threw the catalytic converter and the salt all over the guardrail and proceeded to the truck. And when the cop came up, I was pouring antifreeze into the truck, which was actually leaking antifreeze.
Okay. And had you been using methamphetamine that day?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Are counsel satisfied that a factual basis has been established to both crimes by
Yes.
the defendant's statement of facts?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you the counsel aware of any of the promises, threats, or inducements in this case?
No, Your Honor.
No.
Has the court complied with the court rule?
Court has.
It has yet again.
I find the pleas made are accurate, understanding, voluntary. There's factual basis. Therefore, I accept them. Mr. Gabriel will prepare a nollie on the other two files, and on these cases, we'll proceed with sentencing. Mr. Norton, as I said, you're going to need to fill out that packet so they can update your pre-sentence report, and then we'll see you back here for sentencing on July 9th. That fills up our date for July 9th, and bonds canceled. We'll see you at that time.
Yeah,
All right, thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to note too that we do intend to seek consideration for swift and sure, although that requires a PSI to be prepared, but it's worthy just to note.
Okay. Okay, I will notify Dr. Howes of that, put that on our list, and we'll proceed accordingly. All right, Mr. Norton, again, that wasn't part of your plea agreement. That's just something Mr. Knopfsinger is going to ask for when you come back, and we'll proceed accordingly, okay? All right.